Good evening, everyone. Looks like we have a full house. Thank you all for being here. I call the March 17th, 2025 regular meeting of the Union County Board of Commissioners to order. At this time, I would like to recognize Commissioner Christina Helms for our invocation.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you to ask for mercy, grace, and your guidance so we can stand in your faith. Let every decision we make as a board be pleasing to you, Lord. Guide our thoughts, our words, and our actions to reflect all of your goodness and mercy. Let your love for us be our anchor, and let the truth of your word guide our path. Let those who do not know you and those who have drifted away from you be brought back into your kingdom, and their hearts be changed forever. In Jesus' holy and precious name, I pray. Amen.
Everyone will please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we move to informal comments, we don't have very many people signed up, but I do want to make everyone aware that there have been two changes to the business agenda this evening. First, there is a request from staff to remove item 25-145, the employee compensation and benefits update, from tonight's agenda. Unless there is an objection, we will remove this item from tonight's agenda. Second, the rezoning application associated with item 25-123, the conditional rezoning CZ 2024-007 Gold Branch, was withdrawn earlier this afternoon by the applicant. Therefore, by operation of law, it has been removed from tonight's consideration by the board. That brings us to informal comments. Madam Clerk, has anyone signed up for informal comments? Okay. We will recognize the speakers signed up for informal comments. Each speaker must address the board from the lectern and begin their remarks by giving their name, stating whether they are residents of Union County, indicating the municipality within which they reside, if any. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to make remarks. A tone may sound at the conclusion of the remarks. A speaker may not yield his or her time to another speaker. Speakers may not discuss matters which are the subject of public hearings, and they must be courteous in their language and presentation. Restatements or repetitive comments by the same speaker, whether at the same or separate meetings, may be ruled out of order and terminated by the chair. Personal attacks will not be tolerated. Speakers may leave written comments and/or supporting documents, if any, with the clerk to the board. The first person that we have signed up is Chad Emmerin.
Good evening. I'm Chad Emmerin. I live in Weddington. I was actually going to speak about the conditional zoning for Gold Branch that's now been withdrawn, so I have nothing further this evening. Thank you.
The next person we have signed up is Doug Presley.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Doug Presley, Robert Douglas Presley. I live at 6308 Old Monroe Road in Indian Trail, right near Sun Valley. And very, very simply, I would like to implore the Commission, please do not raise our property taxes by 60%. I'm about to retire, or I had planned to, and this is going to work a tremendous hardship on people like myself I will soon be on a fixed income. I live in an old house on an old homestead, which I do not wish to leave. I know I'm told just sell, but I don't want to sell. I want to live in the old house I grew up in. And these much higher taxes are going to make that difficult for myself and others in the same boat with me. And I would imagine it's also going to make it hard on young people just trying to start out. I understand, of course, that you must have revenue, that taxes will go up. But I implore you not to go up by that enormous amount that I've been reading about in the newspaper. That's all I have to say. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you for being here. Are there any other speakers who have not signed up who wish to speak?
I did sign up.
I did sign up. Okay, we'll start with you. Just your name and where you live and 3 minutes.
Sure. I do have the confirmation. Yeah.
I thought you said we didn't have any on those. Okay, these are empty. Okay. These are public hearings.
Go back one more in your packet. Right here. Right here. Right here.
Okay, I got loaded up with hearing notices. You got me loaded up here, I'm sorry. Okay, informal, okay, that's not it. We do have, are you Mr. Kemp?
Yes,
Okay, you are signed up, I'm so sorry.
that's okay. I'm Rich Kempter. I'm a Union County resident. I live at 1149 Curling Creek Drive in Wesley Chapel. I'm a part of the Heritage South community who has been in here multiple times.
Oh, yeah.
Reporting on the sewer odor. As you're aware, there's been a pilot program run by Union County Water. Started last summer with some measurements that were taken prior to actually having a contractor implement the pilot program. We've been in great communication with John Shutak and the water group. I can't say enough about them. They've been wonderful. As I understand it, today is the last day of the pilot program. It had been extended for about 10 days. And we're also aware in the community that there's some very technical, very professional kind of measurements going on right now. I'm here to report on a very untechnical and simple test, and that's called the smell test. And I can tell you, from my perspective, my family's perspective, since the pilot program started, there has been virtually no odor. It seems to me, from that simplistic point of view, the pilot program is very successful. And we're hoping that now that the program is going to cease today, that within the next couple of weeks, the very technical measurements can be assessed and hopefully come back at the very beginning of April for your next meeting and recommend the continuation of that program. So once again, I'm very thankful for this group. I'm thankful for Union County Water.
Okay. And we have Miss Deanna Terry.
Good evening. I'm Deanna Terry. I'm a resident of Union County, and I live in Indian Trail. I'm the founder of Key Step, a nonprofit dedicated to supporting foster youth transitioning out of care. I spent 5 years in the system before aging out 37 years ago, and still I feel the lasting effects. I entered care a 4.0 student. I left homeless, pregnant, and without a diploma. It took until my mid-40s to climb out of poverty. My small business began to thrive in my 50s, allowing me to develop Key Step. Let me be clear, I'm not a success story. It's a tragic story with a better outcome than most. My journey didn't have to be a constant battle to achieve self-sufficiency. In Union County, 41 former foster youth age 18 to 24 are known. Only 17 qualify for support through Links, which ends at 21. By 2026, that number is expected to be around 70. The numbers reflect those aging out at 18, excluding those who reunify as adolescents. National statistics are grim. 20% leave unhoused, 70% are parents before 21. 50% leave without a diploma, and less than 5% leave with a driver's license. We endure PTSD at twice the rate of war veterans. We experience higher rates of anxiety, depression, and suicide. The most tragic statistic, 55 foster youth go missing every single day in this country. No one sees an Amber Alert. No one sees a flyer for these fosters. Key Step has already made a tangible impact in less than 6 months, providing resources like a fully stocked pantry, job opportunities, tutors, even loving host homes for 2 youth who are about to be homeless. Pardon. One of your board members, Gary Sides, is a life coach for one of our couples. With the right support, our foster youth don't just survive, they thrive. They can become engineers, business owners, nurses, and dare I say, nonprofit leaders, even reach for the stars like Sharon Steve Jobs. But first, we must recognize we need adjustments to an outdated system that is failing them, a system that hasn't changed much in the 39 years since Title IV-E was amended to provide independent living programs, or 2008 to provide extended care up to 21. We don't even have an after-hours crisis line for youth in extended care. Listening to former fosters is one way to make the right adjustments. We also need to embrace and support organizations like Key Step who help fill the gaps as we can engage and involve the community in ways government is limited with. I'm here today to begin a dialogue with the county to ask for your support in helping these young adults achieve their full potential. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for being here tonight. Are there any other speakers that are not signed up to speak that do wish to speak tonight? Yes. Okay, just your name, where you're from.
My name is Shantae Plowman, 7128 Highway Bottoms Road. Well, I have 2 questions. Is it the Colton or Kevin Presley that had house development that has been withdrawn, or? I didn't know. Okay.
They withdrew their application.
Okay. And the second thing is the taxes, which he's correct is about 60% on, we have quite a few properties, and I hope you take in consideration all the housing developments that have been built everywhere, which I know is going to bring in a lot of money. So with what we have, do you go down with the rates, or is that what the tax amount will be? And I just hope that y'all take that in consideration, that that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money you're bringing in. So that's it.
We'll be going into the budget season in the coming months, so just,
Okay.
Stick with us, watch online,
Okay.
or attend the meetings as we enter into the budget season.
Okay,
Thank you for being
Okay,
here.
Appreciate it.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Hearing none, we will now move to the next item on our agenda. The next 4 items on the agenda are all public hearings related to proposed road namings. Specifically, the following public hearings will be conducted at the same time. If you wish to speak on a particular item, please identify that item in your remarks. Otherwise, we will assume you are speaking to all the items collectively. The first one is item 25-126, public hearing for road naming for an unincorporated portion of segments C and E located between Torrey Path and the existing Helms Road. Item 25-134, a public hearing for road naming for the unincorporated portion of segment D located between Waxhaw Marvin Road and NC 75. Item 25-135, public hearing for road naming for unincorporated portion of segment F located between Waxhaw Marvin Road and the CSX Railroad. And finally, item 25-137, public hearing for road naming for unincorporated portion of segment G located between segment C and the CSX Railroad. I now open each of these public hearings and recognize Bjorn Hansen, our senior planner, for comments from the planning staff.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, Manager Matthews. This map will hopefully give a little more clarity for all the words and segments. This is a result of a successful grant that the NCDOT won for improving railroad access in the west side of Waxhaw. This was awarded several years ago. Some of the roads have already been built, such as this long one here, and that motivated us to work with the NCDOT and Waxhaw last fall to conduct a public comment period to solicit names for these roads. This one is open. This one, Torrey Path, has been closed at the railroad. Helms Road will eventually be closed at the railroad. And this new road, which will be the bridge, the biggest part of the project, will cross over NC 75 and the railroad and connect in. And then a short section of Helms Road will remain. So some of these are in Waxhaw, and most are in a combination. And we could have 6 public hearings, but Torrey Path was recommended to remain Torrey Path as it's currently named. So that doesn't require a hearing. We've notified the residents that it's not subject to the public hearing. The remainder, this long section crossing over to Helms, was recommended to be named King Hagler in recognition of the Catawba Indian chief in the 1700s, I believe, who was a peacemaker between the settlers and the local natives. Then you have Helms Road. This short section will be renamed, proposed to be renamed Ernest Way in recognition of one of the property owners is having some property acquired for the road project. Helms Road would remain the same. It would connect over to NC 75, and then the short section of Helms Road would be renamed Sabinski Way in recognition of a Town of Waxhaw employee. So those are the proposed names, the staff recommendations in cooperation with Waxhaw. You have a copy of the resolution from Waxhaw's action last month, taking action on their portions. Hopefully, our segments will line up with them in terms of naming, and then we would work with the post office and Google and the tax office and 911 to update all of our databases, as well as the NCDOT, to name these roads. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Madam Clerk, has anyone signed up to speak at the public hearings for these matters? Okay. Seeing that we have no speakers signed up for public comments on these hearings, is there anyone here tonight who wishes to speak on these road namings? We have one person in the audience. If you would please approach, you can give us your name, your address, and the municipality you live in, and we'll give you 3 minutes.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
My name is Jackie Zamora. I live on 4524 Helms Road. So I understand, I really don't have a problem with any of the name changes except for the small section that is currently Helms that's going to change to King Hagler. You guys are, for this project, a bunch of homes are being demolished or removed. But there's going to be a couple of homes and some businesses that are still on Helms that are not being removed. And I didn't know if we could keep the Helms where keeping the Helms instead of New Hagler Road and maybe renaming where you guys are keeping Helms Road where nobody lives and no businesses are on, maybe swapping those, since it would affect us. And our addresses would all change. So that's all.
Did you by any chance go to the Waxhaw meetings to share this concern or option?
I did not, because I had received this in the mail, and so that's why I came here.
Gotcha.
We're outside of the Waxhaw city limit,
Okay.
so that's, yeah.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you for being here to share that with
Thank you.
us.
And just one more thing, one of my neighbors, she's an elderly woman. She's 75. She's lived there her whole life. And I don't know, it seems kind of inconvenient for her to change her whole identity kind of at this point, since it's not set in stone. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Bjorn, would you mind talking to us about those changes and how it would affect that area?
If I understood it correctly, you were referring to the section here in the middle?
Do you mind, is it okay if I approach
you? Come on up.
Okay.
Yeah, you use the mouse and just show where you're
Oh,
referring
sure.
to.
Oh, yeah, sure. So if you see this pink section, Sabinski Way, there's a few homes that are just at this section right here. Like, I live there. My neighbor who's elderly lives here. We have another neighbor here. And there's a couple of businesses here and here. And we were just, well, not we, but me, hoping to keep Helms Road on this green line, and then maybe just renaming this purple line the King Hagler Road, since, like I said, people still live here. But, yeah.
So I don't have, on this map, it doesn't show the municipal limits for the extent of it, but certainly no matter what, you'd want to keep the name of the road consistent along the road itself. So it would involve changing the recommendation for the purple segment and realistically, until we found some sort of intersection such as Sabinski or all the way over to Torrey Path, to change King Hagler to Helms Road or potentially Old Helms Road, something like that, to accommodate that. So I can't answer that right now. We'd certainly have to go back to Waxhaw in terms of seeing what they thought about it as well.
Madam Chair. I think it's worth exploring, Bjorn, because, I mean, if there are residents that are going to be impacted with address changes, I mean, I don't think that it really hurts us to, reach out to Waxhaw and just see if they would be amenable to something like that. And then, once we get that information, then, obviously the board can deliberate. But certainly I would be interested to see if Waxhaw would be amenable to something like a reversal of those road names, especially if it impacts, multiple residents there.
Will do.
Okay, thank you very much. I now close each of the 4 public hearings. Next on the agenda is 25-125, recognition of Union County Water staff. I want to recognize Christopher Clark, our Director of Water and Wastewater Operations, for this item.
Good evening. Again, my name is Chris Clark. I'm the Director of Water and Wastewater Operations. And tonight I have I've got 2 teams of people that I want to recognize. First is Mr. Matt Hargett, who works in our sewer field services division. Matt, you want to come on up? And I also want to thank you all for allowing us to really have these employees recognized, really a job well done. It's something that we all can be proud of. I know that I personally in operations, I just love this. And we really do have just fantastic people. And Matt really does epitomize this. So I'm going to read what's in your agenda packet, but just want to recognize Matt here. So, at the annual NC1 Water Conference in Raleigh, North Carolina, the NC1 Water Association selected Matt Hargett for the 3 Musketeer Award. Matt Hargett works as a utility field services supervisor in water and wastewater operations and has been working at Union County Water for 22 years. The 3 Musketeer Award is designated to honor 3 individuals who have not only volunteered countless hours in their respective committees, but have also gone above and beyond in giving their time, resources, and support to the NC1 Water staff. Matt Hargett was given this honor by conducting himself as one who truly represents all for one and one for all for the association. In addition to this award, Matt was elected to a 2-year term on the Board of Trustees for NC1 Water. Matt's dedication to the water and wastewater industry and its continued growth within North Carolina is made evident by this recognition and election to serve as a trustee. Well done, Matt.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. And we got a chance to... Now, the second part of the employee recognition are we have some competition teams who compete on a state and national level. We have 4 of them. And I will read off what again here, but just again, once again, we have, most of them are here. I think we're only missing 2. But they're all here, and they really have done Union County proud, not just on a state stage, but really on a national stage in multiple events. So I'll go ahead and read this. During the 2024 annual NC1 Water Conference, Union County Water had 4 competition teams complete in 4 events: Operations Challenge, Hydrant Hysteria for both men and women, and Water Pipe Tapping. The Operations Challenge competition comprises of 5 timed skilled events that range from cutting pipe and making taps, pump maintenance, laboratory processes and calculations, to performing a confined space personnel retrieval exercise. The Hydrant Hysteria competition teams test their abilities not only to put together a different hydrant each year, but to maximize teamwork and communication to successfully and safely compete with a winning time. Our water tapping team also focuses on collaboration, effective communication, and skill to be able to perform this water-specific task in timed competition. Our teams performed well in the state-level competition and brought home the following awards. The Operations Challenge got first in overall competition, first in the collections event, first in the safety event, first in the maintenance event, first in process control event, and second in the laboratory event. For Hydrant Hysteria, both the men and women won first place. And of course, our water tap competition team also competed in first place. So members, if you wouldn't mind please standing up when I mention your name. For the competition team, I have Brett Fisher, Hayden Hunter, Jonathan Jordan, Austin Medlin, and Jamie Hargett. For a Hydrant Hysteria, you get Justin Huntley, Jimmy Gill, who's not here, but I want to mention his name, and their coach, Jonathan Smith. For Hydrant Hysteria for the women's team, Michelle McCarver, Beth Belk, and of course, Justin Huntley is their coach. And then finally, for the water tap team, I have Richard Baker, who believes right, yeah. Rick Morath, Matt Hargett, again, and Dominic Hamilton. Congratulations to all of you for your success. And they've got a lot of trophies. And the hardware. You want to bring Josh?
Okay, y'all come in as close as you can. All right, smiles, lots of smiles. That's a lot of people and do a lot of pictures. Okay, good, thank you.
Well, that was worth coming here tonight for, celebrating our employees and such incredible work that they're doing, and to place first, second, or even in the top 10, you know, let alone being in first place, is absolutely amazing. So go Union County. Next on our agenda is item 25-143. Service Award Recognition. I want to recognize Ms. Jennifer Davis, our Assistant Human Resources Director, for this item. Welcome.
Good evening. Good evening. On Thursday, February 27th, we hosted our Q1 Service Award ceremony to celebrate 38 employees who had met an anniversary milestone. Oh, I'm sorry. Of those 38 employees, during the ceremony, we celebrated and recognized 11 5-year employees, 5 10-year employees, 1 15-year employee, 5 20-year employees, and 1 25-year employee. We are so grateful to be able to host these events for our employees and cherish the stories we hear behind each employee. I know I myself look forward to these quarterly events each year, or each quarter. I will definitely make sure to invite each of you each time we have those. I know some of you have been able to attend those. So our next one will be April 29th, and I will be sending that invite out to all of you so that you'll hopefully will be able to mark your calendars to be able to attend. We hope that you will enjoy a few key moments from the event from this short video. Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Q1 Service Award ceremony. I'm happy to have all of you here. Today, we are celebrating employees. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Q1 Service Award ceremony. I'm happy to have all of you here. Today, we are celebrating employees who are celebrating 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20, 25 years today.
We thank you so much for all that you do for the county.
What makes you County so unique is that we're able to serve families, at the same time in the schools, able to serve the different students that I come encounter with. I feel validated, I feel appreciated, and I'm just very overwhelmed and very happy.
Well, it's very nice to be recognized. Union County is very good at that. And as a whole, I can't tell you how pleased I am to be here as an employee, because coming from the private sector and at the point I was in my career, when most people are trying to push people with a lot of experience out the door, Union County has embraced someone like myself and given me a lot of opportunities to advance, and I'm very thankful for that. And I would highly recommend anybody looking for a career to apply with Union County.
So thank you, Avery, for 10 years, and I wouldn't be able to do my job without you.
Union County has always allowed me to be myself. You can come in, it's an open arms family, and everything that you do, there's always full support. I've never seen a negative part in my department or any other department that has made me not want to be in Union County.
Union County is a special place to work because I've seen they care about their people. It's changed a lot over the years, like I said about the library, the county has too, but the bottom line is they've always put a lot of effort into caring for their people. Listening to what my supervisor had to say, it made me almost cry, which is funny because I don't cry at work. But it made me feel valued. It made me feel like, wow, I've maybe accomplished something, and it just made me feel proud. The bottom line is we've always been dedicated to serving our public, and that's why I love working there.
Well, again, I want to say thank you for everyone for coming out and celebrating and your co-workers, employees. I'd also like to thank our chair of the Board of Commissioners, Melissa Merrill. She's here. It's important, and I appreciate she's taking time out of her day to come and hear you celebrate your co-workers. She gets to put a name with a face with a name, and kind of understand what you do and the things that make you part of Union County. I love to hear all the stories and all the connections that you have. One individual talked about the bond, and I think that's important. This isn't just a place to work. It is a bond. We all have something in common. It's about service. It's what we do. And I really appreciate having all of you here, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much.
I don't know where Jennifer went to, but, oh, there you are. Okay. That was so much fun to attend. It was absolutely wonderful to hear all the supervisors, present and talk about the employee that was getting 5, 10, 15, 20, and even 25 years. And I did learn so much. I enjoyed learning about Jonathan. Apparently, he's a really good dancer, so I'm going to remember that. And Gypsy was absolutely incredible to me. So if anyone on the board has not had a chance to attend one, I know Commissioner Helms has, it was the best way to start a day. And my Oz got to attend as well, and I think he enjoyed meeting everyone on our way into work. But thank you so much for doing this for our employees. I think there's nothing more important than to let people that are giving, the best part of their lives and the biggest chunk of their day to work here and represent this county. And it was absolutely wonderful to meet all of them firsthand. So I can't wait for the next one. Next on the agenda is item 25-147, recognition by Crime Stoppers. I want to recognize one of the most incredible people I have ever met in Union County. truly one of my favorite people, Mr. Reed Helms, with Union County. He is our ambassador to Crime Stoppers, and I think he works 12 months a year to prepare for the Crime Stoppers barbecue. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Mr. Helms, and he's all decked out for St. Patrick's Day, and we've seen the suspenders. You might want to turn around and show everyone else those handsome suspenders. The floor is yours. Thank you.
For inviting us here tonight. Chairman, Ms. Merle, Vice, Mr. Helms, and Mr. Sides, Mr. Brian Matthews, Ms. Christina Helms, and Clancy Balcom. Grew up with your dad and Miss West. Don't forget Miss West. She's a jewel. But I've been involved in Crime Stoppers since July the 10th, 1981. Dr. Paul Helms started it. And over the years, the program has grown as a result of everybody that puts input and sponsors. And we got the most beautiful place around here to have a barbecue. And I meant to look that up, but I think we've been using the Ag Center for about 15 years. And we last year was our best year we ever had. We had them lined out the door. But as a result of all of your help supporting this program and supporting us, we got a plaque here we would love to present to y'all tonight for all the help you've helped us in the past and hopefully in the future. And we have some of our board members and some of our associate members, and we got one here. He's hard to recognize. He's very active and helped us. I think his name is Eddie Cathy? Yeah, the sheriff. But I'd like to present this to y'all and we're going to do another one. And we'd sure like for y'all to be right there to help us, because we're going to need all the help we can get. Alan, y'all associate members.
Before we run off too quickly, I would like to recognize our 2024 Law Enforcement Officer of the Year, Mr. Chris Byram, and his family.
You probably read it in the newspaper and maybe on your phone, but he's a school resource officer at Weddington High School. He just got out of school and knew what to do immediately. And in my opinion, from what I read about it, was told about it, he saved the little boy's life down there. Chris Byron. And we select our board, and our people selected him as Officer of the Year for something that went beyond the call of duty.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
Thank you, officer. Thank you for your service. We appreciate it.
Good catch. The next item for consideration of the agenda is the consent agenda.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'll make the motion that we adopt the consent agenda as published.
Is there, so we got the motion. Any comments, questions? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Okay. This brings us to the business portion of the agenda. The first item on business is 25-167, 2025 reappraisal status update. I will recognize Van Harrell, our tax administrator, for an update to the board concerning this item.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity to come here tonight and provide you with an update. It's been a busy couple of weeks, as you can imagine, but a lot of phone calls, a lot of conversations, but that's what we're here for. The management team asked me to come provide a recap of a couple of items and some new information, updates, kind of where we're at in the process, and talk about the appeals process as well, so we'll get started. Just to recap here, you saw this in previous presentations. Why are we doing the reappraisal this year? Ultimately, this was a mandated reappraisal. The county planned to do this initially in 2021 when they adopted the 4-year cycle, but we did get notice from the state in February of 2022 that we had to do a reappraisal in 2025. So that ultimately led to this being a triggered reappraisal process under 105-286. Again, we do this, the purpose of this is to maintain a stable tax base for the county and the municipalities across the board, because we're not just county, we're within the municipalities, we handle every property in Union County. And to make sure that things are appraised equitably in line with the market and everyone is valued appropriately according to market values where the market shifted since the last reappraisal. The third thing here, and I haven't mentioned this in previous slides because on a 4-year cycle, you don't have a risk of this. But if you go beyond 4 years, you do, and that's avoiding equalization. There's a special class of property, it's called public service property, and it's really infrastructure stuff, Piedmont Natural Gas, railroads, Duke Energy, Union Power. Those properties and their assets are valued at the state level. In a reappraisal period, if you go beyond 4 years and your sales ratio drops below that 85%, equalization kicks in, which means they will cut about 25% of that tax base out, and we can't tax it. Based on the last time that happened, it was just over $1 million in revenue at our current tax rate with the value reduction that we had. So you want to avoid that if at all possible. Another recap item, just to kind of show you the progress we've made to date. Again, 114,000 parcels in the county now. The overall increase in value, and this is a gross increase, it does not account for any tax relief that needs to be applied or deferred property values on land such as farmland. But the overall gross increase for the county was 60.05%. Of the 31 counties, we had a survey that we filled out a couple of weeks ago. 31 counties are doing reappraisal in North Carolina this year. 23 responded to the survey. Of those 23 counties that responded, the average increase countywide for every one of those counties was 61%. Some were higher, obviously, because you're looking at averages. I think I pointed out in a previous presentation, Cumberland went up as much as 88%. There were a number of peer counties that went up in the 70s. So we're in line with the overall average, even factoring in some of the smaller counties that have done their reappraisal for this year. Breaking that total number down into individual components, the residential valuation increase total, again, gross percentage increase is 63.45%. If you look at the individual increases on individual properties countywide, that median number was just under 57% countywide. Commercial property total increase was 45.6% effectively. And then, of course, your exempt properties also have value, and those values went up as well, but it's irrelevant from a taxation standpoint. And then your land value, if we break the land component out just to kind of monitor that, and it's all based on sales, but that valuation, overall valuation went up 94%. Again, a large part of that is going to be deferred because of the PUV programs. So if your market value on the notice you received, let's just, as an example, if it's $50,000 an acre at market value, for farmland, you're only going to be taxed on about $255 an acre. So as far as values, there's a significant reduction there in the taxable value of that property because of the PUV program. One of the questions we've been getting is market value versus tax value or assessed value. And I've even had some realtors call, well, market value never reflects. It does for about 48 hours. So on January 1st of a reappraisal year, our job is to reflect the current market, the changes that have occurred in the market since the last reappraisal for that time period. We have to bring the values up to that level. That is why you have a market value assessment. And on your notices that were received, the value indicated was your market value, not necessarily your taxable value. So if you're in the elderly program, that was not indicated on that notice because it's irrelevant from the standpoint of a market value change. 105-283 is a uniform appraisal standard in the statutes that we operate under. It states all property shall be appraised at its value in true value in money. And then it goes further on to define that word true value in money as meaning market value. So that is where the market value changes come from. We have to monitor that. And you've heard me mention in previous presentations about the 47,000 sales. That's where we get that data from. It's strictly a market-based transaction. Here's a graphical representation. This goes back to 1986 when I was in middle school, roughly. But it shows you that the red line there is 100% of market. This shows you annually the year-end number of the sales ratio that we track, going all the way back 40 years. And you can see where the market stays constant at 100%. Whether it's going up or down, we look at the market as 100%. You can see how the tax values have fluctuated throughout that time period. With that one inversion, typically it's going to be below 100%. You had the one inversion in 2008, 9, and 10 where you were above that. I thought this would help kind of explain visually and help people see where the data comes from long-term in our office. Let me back up because I did want to point one thing out. The highlighted colors there, so your green boxes on those percentages are your reappraisal. You're missing one right here on this year's number. That's as of the new values going into effect on January 1st. The green is the percentages of market as of the reappraisal. The orange color, light orange color, is the year prior to the reappraisal. And then the yellow is the trigger year. So I want to talk about that for a moment. So you may wonder why wasn't there any yellow boxes back here on some of these percentages in prior years? That law went into effect July 1, 2009. And so that specifically for the Tier 1 counties in North Carolina based on population. If you're above 75,000 people, you're subject to that trigger mechanism in the statute based on where the sales ratios either go too high or too low. And that's why in 2012, you started seeing these trigger points for the mandatory reappraisal.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yeah.
Van, if I can just interject here a minute. So I'm sure that, your staff has received questions about this. We've received some questions about this as well. Where a lot of folks are questioning, why it is the county does reappraisals every 4 years as a policy when the state only requires 8 years. Correct me if I'm wrong, but what we're seeing here on this graph, and I think this is kind of telling, is that there's two sides to that. So obviously, we've got trigger points here. So we've got what the state mandates. We've got our county policy. But what we're also seeing here is triggers. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the trigger mechanism as defined by general statute, I'm assuming, or state?
General statute, yes.
Okay, is essentially 115% or 80?
85%.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so I want to stress this, that, we're seeing a lot of yellow on this graph. And so, again, to your point earlier, had we not already had an assessor of reappraisal already planned, we would have been triggered
Exactly.
in 25. But I think that this goes to show you that, that the cycle of every 4 years is intended to kind of even out, if you will, the market value or the assessed tax value of the properties. Is that correct?
That's correct. So the idea is that the more frequent a reappraisal, the less of an impact on an increase. So in 2021, after that reappraisal, because of the sticker shock at that point, it was 36%, which pales in comparison to where we're at this year. I think the recommendation for counties our size is to do every 4 years. We talked to the board, and they felt like at that time that was a good way to mitigate such a large increase. None of us could have predicted where the market would have gone the last 4 years. There's no way we could have predicted that. That's not what we're in the business of doing. We do monitor it, and we're monitoring it now for sales that have occurred since January 1st. Sheriff of Clayton, I think it was last week, for sales that have occurred, we look at the sales ratio number. For all sales that have occurred since January 1st, our sales ratio has already dropped to 95%. So it's not going gangbusters like it did in 2021, so to speak, because by the end of January of that cycle, we had dropped 8% already. We're at 92% at the end of January. So we're here in March, and we're at 95. So the sale price, and that's the median number. There's some more, some less. Sale prices are still increasing in some areas, decreasing in others. So it's just averaging that out is what it comes down to. But that is the purpose behind a more frequent reappraisal. You've got some counties now that are moving to 2 years, which would be a challenge, but it's worth a discussion at some point potentially if we continue to see the market move like it does. Yeah.
I also want to clarify, if I understood this correctly. The state says that it has to be done every 8 years, but because of the sale values, even if the board before us had not set it to happen every 4 years, it is my understanding that if we had not had that in place, we would have been mandated to do it anyway because of the sale prices that have in our recent history.
Correct.
So even if Union County did not have that 4-year revow, and our last one was 2021, so we were due to have one. If we had not had that in place, we would have been mandated to do it anyway because of the sales history.
That's correct.
Okay,
We
thank you.
received that notice in February of 2022. I've got it, and we've got it in our office. And then we got a reminder in August of last year, hey, you're supposed to have a reval done January 1st, make sure you get it done.
Okay.
And that's, in a nutshell, that's what they told us.
I think that's very important for our constituents to know that the commissioners did not ask for this. It was a policy that was already put in place, and even if we had not followed through with it, it was going to be mandated by the state
That's
to
correct.
happen.
Yes, ma'am.
And you got the letters.
We got the letters.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So I want to touch on the appeals process. We've gone over the 5 stages prior to this. The first, once you file the appeal, it goes to an informal review process. In other areas of the statute, it's referred to as the assessor's review. Then from there, if we can't settle that, which is typically about 10% of our appeals go beyond this stage, it goes to the Board of Equalization and Review. And at that point, most of them are handled between the board and the taxpayer, or we work further with the taxpayer and come to an agreement based on evidence they provide for their appeals. From the Board of Equalization and Review, if you still don't agree with your value, you can go to the Property Tax Commission. That group is appointed by the governor and the General Assembly. It's a bipartisan group that are political appointees. From a valuation standpoint, that's the end of the road. If there's a legal matter, a procedural issue, then that can be appealed from the PTC to the Court of Appeals and on to the Supreme Court if necessary. I think we've had 3 cases that have gone to the Court of Appeals over the years since I've been here. I think we won 2 of them, lost 1. So it's just a matter of the issue that's at hand. Here's a look at our appeals dashboard. So you've invested in technology, and this is a timeline from March 4th to today of the daily amount of appeals that we received through this appeals system. You can see we peaked over the weekend. I guess people had more time at home, so that they're submitting those appeals. But currently we are up to, I think it's on the next slide, currently we are up to, as of lunchtime today, at just under 1,700 appeals. Which is about where we expected to be at this point. I'm surprised it's not a little higher, to be honest with you. I think we were expecting between Wednesday that notices went out and the Sunday after that to be right around 1,000, 1,100, but it was trailing behind that a little bit. This is a dashboard of the status of the appeals, just kind of show you what we see on the admin side from staff's working these. You can see there's 1675 in progress. That means they have not changed the status of those. The reason more of those have not changed at this point is because staff is on the phones. We expanded our call center to include the entire appraisal staff. So we have 15 people answering the phones, roughly, all day long. There are certain queues that are not part of the main call queue, but if you're calling about this, we've got 11 to 13 people that will be answering these questions. So we fully staffed our phones. Appraisers are only in the field right now when call volumes are down and we can spare one to go out, and otherwise they're working these appeals. So we'll see this number go through these various categories so we can make sure things are progressing as they need to throughout the appeals window.
How long do you expect for people to hear back from your department about their appeal?
That's going to be a case-by-case basis. Usually, once the call volume will slow down, they should hear some of them within a week or so from the time we can actually get to working those appeals, because we work them in the order they're received. So it's just a matter of workload and call volume at that point. And some of them are tricky, because I've been looking at the ones that are being filed. One thing that you've got to provide us as a taxpayer is evidence for your justification of your value. A lot of these appeals are coming in with nothing. I don't think it's right. I think the value is too high, or I think it's too low. We actually have, believe it or not, we have had several appeals where they're saying the value is too low. It's not the norm, obviously, but we are getting those appeals, and a little bit unusual, but we see them. And so it goes both ways on this. But we work them as fast as is humanly possible with the staff that we have. Usually, I think, thinking back to 2021, we had finished working all appeals, and the board had adjudicated almost all of them by the end of June. So starting April 14th, the BER will be in here 3 days a week, Monday and Wednesday mornings and Thursday evenings. That way there's an evening option for people that may not be able to get off work. That's a 4 to 7 time frame, but we work with the taxpayers to schedule that. They get scheduling notifications from this appeals system as well, so they have everything available. And we work to make it as friendly as possible, as customer service friendly as possible.
Madam Chair. One other question, Van, and you may be going this way, so if I'm stealing your thunder, then by all means, just let me know. We've received some questions too from the folks in Union County where they had questioned the date of the notice of their reappraisal in regards to the appeal process. Can you speak to, I believe that what we've seen is, I think the letters were dated maybe February 28th, 27th, something like that. Most people received their notices in the mail on March 5th. And so I think that there's some confusion out there as to what the final day is for the general public to appeal their reappraisal. So can you shine some light on that for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as the date on the notice, we pulled the final data file to send to the printer that Friday morning. They provided us proofs late Friday afternoon. So when they're generating the letters, they're doing the print date on that letter as of the date of the file was received for the notices. We spoke with the printer and they said, well, we really probably should have done the mail date. But just to be clear, that was late Friday. Then you had the weekend. They didn't print over the weekend. And they had to print on Monday and Tuesday and hit the mail on Wednesday. So it's really a timing issue, but that does not affect their appeal window. There's a statement in the notice, and we're gonna reword this next time and moving forward, because we have a smaller batch of annual notices that we send out for new construction or changes to property, and so we have to send those out annually, and we'll have that fixed for next year. But the last statement is that appeals should be received within 30 days of the notice. That is a request, simply for multiple reasons. One, to allow us to work with the taxpayer prior to the hearing schedules coming into play, because if we can settle it, then it's done, and the board doesn't have to go there to hear that additional case. The other reason is for tax-based estimates for budget purposes. The faster we work these appeals, the more stable of a tax base we know we've got for you guys and the manager's office to develop the budget for the next operating year. We have some preliminary estimates that we plugged in for appeal loss, tax relief, so we're working through all that. But the absolute deadline to file is the last day that the board is in session formally, and that will be May 28th. So they still have just under 90 days to appeal, which is not unusual. But the language in the letter, to again circling back to that, it's the same assessment notice that virtually every county in the state uses. From a language, there may be variations, but there's a statement like that in everybody's notice, because we have to have time to work those appeals and to work with the taxpayer on that.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that clarification, because I know that that some folks have expressed their concern, you know, that perhaps the county's trying to shorten their window for appeal, and I've tried to assure folks that that's not the case. So,
and we're going to make sure that's clearer in the next notice that goes out next year.
I would appreciate that. Thank you, Van.
Even after, so to highlight this slide here, the informal review settlement period prior to April 14th, that's strictly an assessor review. If we can't settle that, then we'll schedule the hearing. Appeals that continue to come in after the 14th will still be reviewed. I want to make sure we make this clear. It's not going to go straight to the board. We will still review those in the office, because the board's policy is they don't want to hear an appeal that has not been reviewed. Because if it's something that we could fix and send to them as a consent agenda item, or a staff recommendation is what we call it for that board, then they want us to do that. So that all these appeals will still be reviewed as they come in. Just to walk through briefly at a high level how you can appeal. If you go to the county's website, you've got these blue areas here on the circles here for each different area of the website. If you're on the main page, you're gonna have to scroll to the right one time, and you'll see this property search key right here. If you click on that, it will take you to the property portal, which we've highlighted in previous presentations. Here you can search by your name, address, parcel number, and we'll bring up your property record card. It looks something similar to this. This one doesn't have it, some of the coordinates of the map, but usually this map here will be highlighting your parcel. This happens just to be a common area at a neighborhood. I don't want to put anybody's private residence up here. This is a common area in one of the subdivisions in the county. And we show you the valuation information. From here, you can run your comparable sales report for your property, or you can see highlighted in yellow is the appeals button. And if you go to that immediately, it's going to take you to this screen, and you can, again, get to all these areas, and you click on File Your Appeal. Once you do that, it's going to walk you step by step through the appeals process. There's required information that has to be entered at every stage of this, and as you enter that information, you'll click Start Appeal. It will take you to those screens for you to enter your ownership information, your parcel. It should be, if you enter the parcel, it should populate automatically, and then from there, it will allow you to run your comparable sales report, and you can upload that for our staff to review. Right now, that's the piece that's missing in a lot of these, is we're not getting the documentation for what the value adjustments people are asking for. Some of them have provided third-party appraisals, which is fine. They can upload any documentation they need to through this portal, and we'll come to our appraisal staff. And going back to that previous workflow chart, there's another screen that actually shows who every appeal is assigned to, and we know who's responsible for working those at any given point in time. That's really all I've got. I'll take any more questions that the board has. All right, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Oh,
just
okay.
a real quick comment. First of all, Van, thank you. I appreciate the update, and I think that it's good that, we do our best to try to keep everyone informed, because there has been a lot of concern, obviously. And we even heard from, I think, one gentleman tonight where he was expressing concern about a 60% tax increase. One thing that I want to make clear to everyone, and feel free to chime in here, but the assessed value is not your tax bill.
Correct.
And so the onus becomes on this board to set the county tax rate. And so obviously what we're going to do is we're going to work with our staff here. We're going to look at the assessed values, and we're going to look at tax rates, and we do that through the budget process. One thing also that I would like to stress is that this board only sets the county tax rate. That, if folks live in municipalities, for example, that there's going to be a municipal board that would, through their budget process, develop their own tax rate. And so, again, I want to make that clear because I think there's been a lot of confusion, when you start seeing your notices in the mail. A lot of folks don't understand that is an assessed value, but that's not necessarily your tax bill. Those are two separate things.
Absolutely, and one thing we've stressed at every presentation that I've done, and I'm headed to another one here as soon as I finish up with y'all, but this does not mean a tax increase of an equivalent percentage. Every jurisdiction has their own. I had a conversation during a presentation last week where it was insinuated that this was nothing but a money grab, and they wanted to know how much money the county was going to get. And I said, that's not the case at all. I said, how you interpret, and this was council, I said, how you interpret that for your jurisdiction is up to you. I can tell you historically the county has always dropped their tax rate during a reappraisal year. But I said, you've got to make that call for you, your constituents, and your budget needs. I said, but that's not a county issue. And so I've made that clear everywhere we have been. So, and I appreciate you highlighting that, because I think he's gone now, but I was going to point that out for the gentleman that was here earlier. Just to reiterate, the county bill does not mean you're going to go up 60%. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is item 25-124, conditional rezoning CZ-2024-006, New Salem. I will recognize Bjorn Hansen, our senior planner, concerning this item.
Evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Manager Matthews. This is a action request for a rezoning that had a public hearing 2 weeks ago, so I'll be brief in reminding you of the details of it. This is a request by the Stevens family to rezone about 2.5 acres in Polk Mountain part of Union County to put in mini storage. Site plan looks like this. The Polk Mountain store is across the street. This would be 2 rows of mini storage. It looks like 3, but that's the gravel parking lot. It's at the corner of Sugar and Wine and New Salem. And this is the existing conditions showing the stores and the existing vacant lot across the street. No one spoke against the public hearing 2 weeks ago. Staff recommends approval, planning board recommends approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. The applicant is here as well to answer any questions as well.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the conditional rezoning for CZ-2024-006 New Salem.
Any comments or questions? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
could Commissioner Helms or someone add also the statement of reasonableness and consistency? That also needs to be handled as well. Thank you.
Yes, sir. The adoption of the ordinance approval revision of the official zoning map of Union County, North Carolina, and adopt the consistency reasonable statements for approval.
And I guess we'll vote on it again. All those in favor of consistency, say aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Next is item 25-071, Rural Land Use Plan Update. I will once again recognize Bjorn Hanson for this item.
Good evening again. This will be a short presentation by me, a longer presentation by our committee chairman.
Are you done?
I'll be done in a few seconds, Mr. Chairman. So this is the rural land use plan that you authorized last spring. We received a grant through the North Carolina Wildlife Commission to help pay for outside technical assistance. We do have a representative, Ms. Lisa Davis, from the North Carolina Wildlife Commission, who will present a few slides after Alan regarding the overview of the program and what you can expect coming out of it. But Alan serves as the chair of the 8-member board that you appointed last fall, and he's going to give an update of the work to date.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Manager Matthews, and certainly Ms. West. That was a lot of my presentation, I want you to know. But it's my privilege to bring you an update from this steering committee that you appointed. And the steering committee is, let's see if I can do it all in one breath: Green Growth, Rural Land Use Planning Steering Committee. Did I get it? Close enough? It's long. Y'all named it. Thank you. This is a map of the land use that was adopted by this commission. And this is an update that I wanted to bring to you from the steering committee that we agreed to do on a periodic basis. The role of the steering committee is to research options, solicit feedback, and then make recommendations to the Land Use Board and to you folks. The role of the Land Use Board is, from our perspective, is to listen and make recommendations back to us, provide feedback back to us, the same as you as commissioners. We will appreciate, certainly, any feedback that you give to us, because this is important as we move forward. Got this timeline on here for a purpose, and that is, folks, we're on schedule. A little unusual sometimes. This is March of '25. We started to work last October. And our objective is to work ourselves out of a job. This committee that you appointed is broad spectrum, representing lots of the sectors of the county, from the areas geographically, but also from the different aspects of the county. And so we're at this March stage now. And as you go down, straight down to the middle, you'll see that there's a presentation, an update, which this is March, and here we are. So we are on schedule. And we will take, and by the a year from now, everything works the way we anticipate it, we will have worked ourselves out of the job. And we will have made, we hope, quality recommendations to you as a commission, and look forward to doing this. We did a vision statement. We completed this, and then we had a comment period during the month of January. We posted this vision statement across the county. We also had it in newsletters, county newsletter. They had it in the Union County Employee newsletter. Committee members and staff distributed postcards in various and sundry arenas, Sunday school classes, whatever. In businesses in Union County, in rural areas of the county. We had at least 210 responses. 86% of the responses live and work in rural areas of the county. 60% have lived here for more than 20 years, and 43% are more than 60 years old. The feedback from this, what do you like about the vision statement? Agriculture is number one. Rural character, number two. Environment, number three. And then absolutely nothing was number four. So, how wonderful. But you take agriculture, rural character, and environment, and quite honestly, you can put all those in the same bucket. What do you not like about the vision statement? Overly vague. Well, that's just the natural course of a vision statement, is to be overly vague. The concern over flexible land uses. And then the skepticism that it'll be followed through. And a need for more environmental emphasis. What concerns you the most about the rural parts today? Number one, development. Surprise, surprise. Two, the lack of infrastructure. Three, the loss of environmental features. And four, the loss of farmland. And quite honestly, I was surprised when I saw the lack of infrastructure and with number one, development, and number two, the lack of infrastructure. Because I'm a lifelong resident of Union County, and I know if you get water and sewer, it's not long before development follows. That's a reality. So, surprised me when I saw that development was the number one, but the lack of infrastructure, and I'm calling water and sewer infrastructure. By the same token, roads is certainly deemed infrastructure by lots of people, and there are probably other things that people are calling infrastructure. What do you want to see preserved in rural Union County? Farmland, by far, number one. Natural habitat and rural cultural. Again, you can put all three of those comments, all three of those references in that same bucket. Is Union County described in the vision statement a good outcome? 58% said yes, and 23% say somewhat yes. So you got 81 that are saying, yeah, it is a viable outcome they'd like to see. 8% said, it's okay, either way. And 11% say no. What is a vision statement? I'm not going to go through this. All of you know what a vision statement is. The last thing can be daring, a vision statement can be daring, distinct, and even disagreeable. This is the vision statement. In the rural areas of Union County, we cherish a way of life where farms and protected open spaces define our community. As stewards of the land, we treasure the balance between living close to nature and preserving our agricultural heritage. Expanses of productive farmland remind us daily of where our food comes from, and by adding options for property owners, lowering density, and enhancing environmental protection requirements, we preserve our natural resources and encourage public appreciation while ensuring agriculture thrives. This approach will sustain our rural character and provide a vibrant future for generations to come. This is about the 11th iteration of the vision statement that this steering committee has approved. But this is the one that we're working with. Potential strategies as we move forward. These are potential strategies, certainly not all-inclusive, but again, looking for feedback. Expanding areas considered rural in the land use map. Increasing or reducing the number of commercial nodes. Enhancing buffering along streams and water bodies. Prioritizing land set aside in major subdivisions. Adding conditions to allow commercial uses on residential land without rezoning. Expanding rural home occupation categories, recommending new lot size requirements, redefining lots of record to provide flexibility for future splitting of lots, expanding conservation efforts to purchase easements, and evaluating private engineered and permitted septic fields. Questions?
Any questions? Commissioner Helms.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Mr. Balcom, first of all, thank you. Appreciate you being here to share this information with us. I've got just a couple of comments here. First of all, from your presentation there, the top concern from the public is development. And I don't think that that's any surprise to any of us or anybody out here in the audience. It certainly is something that we deal with every single day, depending on, no matter which side of the fence that you fall on development. But one thing that I liked is in your 2011 variation of the vision statement, one comment really stuck out to me, and that is it says stewards of the land. Yes, and I appreciate that. You know, many of us were raised around farming, and you know, one thing that my grandfather taught me is that education and land are the two most valuable things that you can have in this life. And he would say that education is valuable because once it's acquired, it can't be taken away. And then land is also one of the most valuable things because, well, land, there's only so much of it, and with land you can do so many things like feed your family. One thing that I wanted to give you feedback on, if you can go back to the strategies slide real quick. So, strategies.
Did I went past it, right?
Yes, sir. There we go. Okay. Yep. So a couple of points stuck out to me, and maybe this is some questions, but I'd like some more information on this. Maybe we can discuss this further when you guys come back in September. But the one about adding conditions to allow commercial uses on residential property, yeah, I'd like to see more. I'd like to see how this looks. You know, are we talking about home businesses here? You know, what's the scope of what the recommendation would be? The second bullet point, reducing the number of commercial nodes. You know, I think that increasing commercial is something that's of utmost concern to this board because we need to diversify our ratio between residential and commercial in our tax base. And then last thing is the evaluate private engineered and permitted septic fields. That's a particular concern of mine. You know, we've We're seeing more and more, alternate wastewater systems, and I think that some of this obviously is out of our hands because the state has determined that some of these are acceptable. But I'm very interested to see what your committee comes back with, because to your point, when you have infrastructure, you're making undevelopable land developable. And that's exactly what we're doing here with these private engineered and permitted septic fields, in my opinion. So I'm very interested to see, what you guys come back with, because this is something that's very pertinent to what we do up here. So thank you, sir.
And thank you, sir, because all those are very relative, very pertinent. We've, as a committee, number one, the rezoning aspect was for work at home, small businesses, maybe a landscaper type thing that they've started out as individual, and maybe now they have 1, 2, 3 employees, but still working out of their home, that type thing. How do we address that? How do we make a recommendation, if you will, for you folks to address it? That was where that was coming from. The last thing, this steering committee, very much concerned about the private engineering statute because of the concerns about going forward. Understanding the elements of it, and I say the elements of why, from a timeline, why it is, and maybe it's as safe as anything, but the concern from the committee's standpoint is, where's the county's liability in perpetuity, if you will? There's a point in the future. There's maybe a probability of there being a challenge with it, and who's going to manage that challenge. And in the past, it's always been the county. So appreciate it, and certainly, and any other feedback we welcome.
Commissioner Balcom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to reiterate what Commissioner Helms is talking about with the evaluating private engineered and permanent septic or permitted septic fields. I've always paid attention to land, and we've seen lots perk within the last 15 years that should never perk. I mean, when I built my house, the county was aggravating. They made me move my house up on the hill, which was a good thing. I'm happy there. But they were aggravating at the time. And now I see houses around me on land that is inferior to that land they wouldn't let me build on. I've joked with Commissioner Helms and said, you can perk a mud puddle now. And that may be a little bit of a reach, but I have seen a duck pond perk. So this really needs to be looked at, because this is going to set up some problems. I know one gentleman that built a house, and he said, I think I can get it to perk. First of all, the house was in his mother-in-law's backyard, so that was the first mistake. But I said, no, this isn't a perkable lot, it's in a hole. He said, no, I can get it to perk. Sure enough, it perked. Within 6 months, he spent $18,000 trying to get water out from under his crawl space. The private engineer, whoever done this, did the boy no favors. So this really needs to be looked at. That's all I got.
And if I may, I don't want to be the one saying this is all bad, because I happen to serve on a board at NC State, and a soil scientist also on that board, and he is an engineer that this is part of his business, and he assures me that what he and they do is as good as or better than what any county would do as far as what they design. Now, do I doubt him? No, I'm not doubting what he says, but it's just like everything else. There's different levels of, different calibers of, I'll stop.
Work.
Any other questions or comments from anyone?
No. Thank you very much
Now,
for
one
being
other thing. We welcome any of you at any time attending our meetings. We would appreciate it. And again, we're here to serve you folks, but to serve the citizens of this county. And it's all volunteer, but I can tell you, everyone on this committee is passionate about what we do. So, thank you. Yeah.
Mr. Malcolm, if you could let us know when those meetings happen so we can put it on our calendar.
Well, it'll be next Tuesday. It's the fourth Tuesday of every month at 11:30.
Oh.
And we meet in your boardroom.
Thank you.
If you need an address, we'll get that to you.
I'm sorry, what time did you say?
11:30. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So now we have a presentation from Elisa Davis about the program that we're working through and some examples of where this has been done elsewhere in the state that give you some ideas of outcomes that hopefully we can at least emulate because they're pretty impressive.
All right, thank you all so much for having me this evening. My name is Lisa Davis. I work for the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission. I am one of their 2 wildlife and fisheries conservation planners, so I cover the southern half of the state, mountains to coast. Essentially, my job is to coordinate and administer the Green Growth Toolbox program and the Partners for Green Growth program, which is a cost share program that you guys have been awarded, and we're very excited to work with Union County. I could talk for a couple of days about how much I like my job and the reason I find it important, excuse me. But I promise to keep this pretty short. So essentially, the Green Growth Toolbox program is a non-regulatory technical assistance program for integrating priority wildlife habitat conservation in local government land use and transportation planning. Long story short, I work with planners to help them prioritize conservation along with their regular planning activities, included in ordinances, talk about incentives for developers to include more conservation into their site plans, and so on. This program's not intended to stop development. It's intended to direct development in a way that it's not overcoming any of our priority wildlife habitats. So think your rivers, think your wetlands, our Piedmont prairies that are disappearing pretty quickly. So the intention is to just help identify those areas and include them for conservation. So far, we've been, in the last 10 years, 2010. Since 2010, we've been included in 68 land use transportation plans and ordinances across the state, and that's only the number that actually reach out and work with us directly. Everything we do is free, and everything we have is available online. So we have multiple counties and municipalities that actually utilize our recommendations without really having to come to us. It's just there for them. So one of these counties, Harnett County, this is actually their new land use plan that is currently going through final comments to be placed in front of their Board of Commissioners. They have set aside important conservation areas that are currently protected, and the medium green that you see there, right in this kind of area and so on, are agriculture preservation overlays. Okay, so they've made it a point to include those as agriculture conservation overlays because agriculture also helps with conservation as well. So they've included these agriculture conservation overlays along our important river corridors and have tried to consolidate development into more infill areas and areas that are expected to require a lot more development based on the amount of pressure Harnett County is getting from Raleigh and Wake County. We've worked with Chatham County the longest. This is another one that we find does a fantastic job with some of their land use plans. Chatham County has included their protected lands areas and a conservation overlay for including habitat connectivity so that animals can move back and forth across habitats, as well as an agriculture protection overlay as well. So another county that's trying really hard for agriculture protection. Now, Union County and Pender County received the Partners for Green Growth program or cost share program at the same time. So this is essentially what Pender County is working on. They've started around the same time Union County has, and they've identified an area for greatest potential for connecting habitats, and they're including that with already current protected areas. And so they're including this. This is their general plan for what will happen. This is essentially going to be a preferred development guide. So essentially, any developers that want to come in can contact the county, receive that preferred development guide, and they can help be directed more into clustered areas. I am always available if you have any questions. This is my contact information. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions, comments?
Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for the work you're doing.
Thank you.
On our agenda is item 25-144, appointments to the boards and committees. There are 4 boards with vacancies for consideration this evening. These vacancies have been advertised in accordance with the board's rules and procedures. Applications have been received, and information regarding the vacant positions may be found in the background provided for this item. The first board with a vacancy is the Home and Community Care Block Grant Advisory Committee. An application has been received to fill one of the vacancies on this committee. I will now entertain a motion for nominations.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'll make the motion that we appoint Dale Louder to the Home and Community Block Grant Advisory Committee.
Okay. Any questions, comments? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The second board with a vacancy for consideration this evening is the Library Board of Trustees. There is 1 vacancy on the board for the Weddington representative, and an application for this position has been received. I will entertain a motion for the nomination for this open position.
Madam Chair, I'll make the motion that we appoint Peter Kovacs to the Library Board of Trustees.
Any comments, questions? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The third board with a vacancy for consideration this evening is the Historic Preservation Commission. There are 2 vacancies on this board. 3 applications have been received for the 2 vacancies. I will entertain a motion for the nominations.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'll make the motion that we appoint Crystal Gilliard as well as John Mullen to serve on the Historic Preservation Commission.
Okay. Any questions, comments? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Finally, there are 2 vacancies on the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. The 2 vacant positions are for the County Commissioner appointee position and a position for a person under the age of 21. We have received 1 application for each vacant position. I will entertain motions for the nominations to these positions.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'll make the motion that we appoint Daniel Haley to the, as the County Commissioner appointee, as well as Ethan X. Davis as the person under 21 to the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council.
Any comments or questions? All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. That brings us to the end of our meeting, and I will recognize our county manager, Brian Matthews.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I actually do have a couple of things I'd like to bring to the board's attention. First off, March 7th was National Employee Appreciation Day. At Union County, we do an Employee Appreciation Month where we try to recognize our employees and certainly try to provide them with something just to say thank you for all the work that they do. So I did want to give a shout out to that, and our staff has worked very hard to put that together. I also want to thank our tax administrator, Van Harrell, for coming and speaking earlier today to talk about the reappraisal and the process and the appeals. I think that's important. And I want to stress that this board, and I know Commissioner Helms said this, this board will be considering a tax rate as part of your budget. The reappraisal is not the tax rate. And I can say, in all honesty, that there will be a lower tax rate, but it may yield a different tax that people have to pay. So that's confusing in that the rate is 58.5 cents now. I promise you it will not be 58.5 cents at the end of this. It will be lower than that. What the actual rate will be determined by your budget, by the revenues needed, by the bonds that we must pay back for some of the projects that we've approved. But I can promise you it will be lower than 58.5 cents. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you very much for those comments. That brings us to commissioner comments, and I'm going to start with Commissioner Sides.
No comments.
Okay. Commissioner Helms.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So first of all, Brian, thank you for bringing those points up. Thank you to Van for being here to provide the update on the appraisal. I think that there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of confusion out there in the county and the public, about what we're dealing with here. And I think that the more information that we can share with folks, then the better off we're going to be. So thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Balcom, for your presentation. Look forward to seeing what your committee comes back with. And thank you to all those that came here tonight and spoke. We certainly appreciate input from the public. This is your county, and we look forward to hearing from the folks that are willing to come up here and speak. So I do want to touch on one thing very quickly, and that is, one of the items that we had planned to talk about tonight was withdrawn, as Chair Merrill had mentioned. And I know that there's several folks that probably came here to speak tonight, and so I apologize that you did not get that opportunity to really address your concerns. With that withdrawal, obviously, it counts as essentially a no vote. The applicant cannot bring that back for 12 months. What I will say is that I would encourage folks to also reach out to your state delegation. As it stands now, there has been a Senate bill that's been filed, that's Senate Bill 219. That's been filed by Senator Todd Johnson, which includes modifications to satellite annexation to Marvin, and also Stallings. So I would encourage anyone that has concerns over that project, please reach out to your state folks. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And I do want to make one clarification. We did allow people to speak tonight, and one person did stand before us and had the opportunity to speak. So, if you showed up tonight, you were given an opportunity to speak if you wanted to. That was not removed. I just want to thank Alan Balcom for being here and for the tireless work that you do for land preservation. And I think it's still important for everyone to know that Union County is number 13 in the nation for loss of farmland. And I think that weighs heavy on all of us. So thank you for bringing, your life's work to help advise this committee and lead this. So thank you very much for being here tonight. I will now turn it over to Commissioner Christina Helms.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to congratulate the Union County water staff for their very impressive wins, including all their belts. Congratulations to y'all. I'd also like to ride on the coattails of Commissioner Helms and Commissioner Merrill in regards to the Land Use Board. Mr. Balcom, you know that this is something that's very near and dear to my heart. My husband puts in a lot of hours on the farm, and I put in a few too, not as many as he does, but, and like Ms. Merrill said, to be 13th in the nation is not a proud statistic. I hope we drop in that aspect. So I do want to thank the Land Use Board very much for their diligent work to protect Union County and to protect our farmland. So thank y'all very, very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Being that the Go Branch development item was pulled, I just feel incumbent to say that I heard from numerous people from the Mill Grove 218 Fairview community who were opposed to this project. And I was prepared to vote for denial of the Go Branch development. And I hope there isn't an effort to circumvent the will of the people by the legislature or by any other body. I believe that these decisions should be as close to the people who are affected as possible. And other than that, I'd like to tell everybody, I hope you have a good night.
Madam,
Okay, yes.
may I make another?
Absolutely.
I apologize. It is with a heavy heart that I do want to announce that one of our employees lost his son recently. Luke Fawcett, son's passed away. He's 13-year-old. He had a heart disease, had a heart transplant. It unfortunately did fail. He did pass away recently, so I did want to make our condolences, sympathy for the family, and our thoughts and prayers. But I did want to make that comment, and I apologize. I missed that earlier. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, for saying that, and our thoughts and prayers will absolutely be with that family. Losing a child it is very, very tough. So we will try to support that family any way we can. So thank you for bringing that to our attention and remembering him. That brings us to the end. I will make a motion to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Good night, everyone.